From the legendary American B-29 Superfortress to the Soviet monster P-8, and even secret projects that were never known, we will dissect each technical detail, uncover the mysterious stories behind each machine, and understand why they are so terrifying. Fasten your seatbelts and brace yourselves because our flight through these heroic yet tragic pages of history is about to take off.
10. Handley Page Halifax. The Halifax, a heavy bomber aircraft of Britain, was used during World War II. Halifax was designed by Handley Page, Limited, to meet the Royal Air Force's 1936 requirement for a bomber equipped with two 24-cylinder Rolls-Royce Vulture engines. However, the Vulture encountered problems during development, and the bomber design was reworked in 1937 to use four Rolls-Royce Merlin engines. The result was a four-engine heavy bomber with a mid-wing design and twin tails, which first flew in October 1939, entered production the following year, and began operations with Bomber Command in March 1941. Equipped with 1,640 horsepower Merlin engines, the Halifax had a wingspan of 104 feet and was 72 feet long. It had a maximum speed of 280 miles per hour and a ceiling of 24,000 feet, although the latter was significantly lower when carrying a full combat load. With a bomb load of 5,800 pounds, the Halifax had a range of 1,860 miles and could carry a full bomb load of 13,000 pounds within a 1,000-mile range. These aircraft were introduced in early 1944 and were improvements over the Merlin engine Halifaxes, but they were still significantly inferior to the RAF's main four-engine bomber, the Lancaster. The early versions of the Halifax were equipped with an electrically operated tail turret mounting four 0.303-inch machine guns, electrically operated turrets mounting two 0.303s in the upper fuselage and belly, and two 0.303s in the nose blister. Later versions eliminated the belly turret, replaced the two-gun upper turret with a four-gun 0.303 turret, and carried only a single machine gun on a flexible mount in the nose. Halifax was primarily used in night bombing raids on German cities. However, it was less successful in that role than the Lancaster, and a large number of Halifaxes were used for maritime reconnaissance, as glider tugs, as parachute transports, and as transports for high-priority personnel and cargo. Over 6,000 Halifaxes were manufactured before production ceased in 1946. 9. Heinkel He 177 Greif. The Heinkel He 177 Greif was a long-range heavy bomber used by the German Air Force during World War II. The introduction of the He 177 into combat operations was significantly delayed, due to both issues in engine development and frequent changes to its intended role. However, it was the only long-range heavy bomber used by the German Air Force during the war. The He 177 had a payload/range capability similar to the four-engine heavy bombers used by the Allies in the European theater. Design work began in response to a 1936 requirement called Bomber A, issued by the RLM for a pure strategic bomber. Thus, the He 177 was initially intended to have the capability to conduct a sustained bombing campaign against Soviet production capacity, deep inside Russia. In contrast to its heavy payload and very wide, 30-meter wingspan, the specifications required a design with only two very powerful engines. To provide the necessary power, the He 177 needed engines with at least 2,000 horsepower. This type of engine was new and unproven at the time. This aircraft type developed into a usable design too late in the war to play a significant role. It was manufactured and used in certain numbers, particularly on the Eastern Front, where its range was especially useful. It is notable for its use in mass raids on Veliky Luki in 1944, one of the late-war heavy bombing efforts by the German Air Force. It was used significantly less on the Western Front, although it did play a role in Operation Steinbock against the United Kingdom in 1944. 8. Vickers Warwick. The Vickers Warwick was a versatile, twin-engine maritime reconnaissance aircraft with many similarities to the famous Vickers Wellington bomber. It used the same geodetic construction method designed by Barnes-Wallis as the Wimpy, although the Warwick was a much larger and heavier aircraft, with a greater wingspan and a significantly higher gross weight of about 50%. Initially designed as a heavy bomber, the Vickers Warwick was built to specification B.1/35 and was the largest twin-engine British aircraft to serve in World War II. 2 Warwick prototypes were ordered, with the first prototype equipped with two 1,800 horsepower Rolls-Royce Vulture II engines and making its maiden flight at Brooklands, Weybridge, on August 13, 1939. The second prototype did not fly until April 5, 1940, initially equipped with 2 Bristol Centaurus engines, though it was later re-engined with Pratt & Whitney R-2800 double Wasp engines. The first production aircraft flew in April 1942, equipped with PNW R2800S1A4G engines. It was delivered to the Aircraft and Armament Experimental Establishment at Boscombe Down on July 3, 1942, designated as the Vickers Warwick BMK-1. However, by this time, British heavy bomber policy had shifted to using only 4-engine designs such as the Short Stirling, Handley Halifax, and Avro 683 Lancaster. Due to this change, and despite an order for 150 Vickers Warwick BMKI aircraft, only 16 were ultimately completed before this type was abandoned for use in the bomber role. The Warwick entered production in 1942 and served in Royal Air Force squadrons. 7.
Piaggio pagina 108 Bombardiere.
The Piaggio P.108 was a 4-engine, low-wing, single-deck strategic bomber aircraft developed by the Italian aviation company SA Piaggio and C. in the late 30s. It was introduced in 1941 and used by the Regia Aeronautica, Italian Royal Air Force, during World War II. This was the only 4-engine heavy aircraft used by the Regia Aeronautica as a bomber during the conflict, and moreover, it was one of the few Italian military aircraft. Its theoretical technical specifications could be compared to the best of the equivalent types produced by the Allies, even though it was practically inferior to the British Lancasters and American B-17s. The Piaggio P.108 Bombardiere was one of Italy's famous bombers, developed and produced by Piaggio in the 1940s. Equipped with impressive technical specifications, this aircraft proved superior performance in combat missions. With a length of 22.92 m, wingspan of 32.0 m, and height of 7.70 m, the Piaggio P.108 had a large wing area of 135.54 square meters, enhancing its stable takeoff and landing capabilities. This bomber version had an empty weight of 17,325 kilograms and a maximum takeoff weight of up to 29,885 kilograms, allowing it to carry heavy weapons while maintaining good performance. Equipped with powerful engines, the Piaggio P.108 used 4 Piaggio P.12 RC.35 18-cylinder double radial engines, providing power up to 1,350 horsepower. This enabled the aircraft to reach a maximum speed of 420 km per hour at an altitude of 3,900 m and have an autonomy of up to 3,520 km, effectively surpassing military bases and target objectives. The Piaggio P.108 was equipped with two 7.7 mm Breda Safet machine guns and six 12.7 mm Breda Safet machine guns, along with the ability to carry bombs up to 3,500 kilograms to effectively destroy enemy ground targets. This capability was clearly demonstrated through experimental use and research, including carrying a 102 mm gun barrel to support the Army in important campaigns. 6. SM.82 Marsupial. The Savoia Marchetti SM.82 Marsupial first flew in 1939 and served in the Italian Air Force from 1940 until the early 1960s. The Marsupial's ability to carry damaged fighter planes gave the aircraft its nickname, often replaced by Canguro G. Italian aircraft manufacturer Savoia Marchetti produced the aircraft, which served extensively throughout World War II in various African campaigns. It was a 3-engine, mid-wing monoplane with retractable landing gear and a tail wheel. 875 were built, with the first entering service in 1940. Although capable of operating as a bomber with a maximum bomb load of up to 8,818 pounds, the SM.82 was used very limitedly in this role. The SM.82 was the foreign aircraft used in the largest numbers by the Luftwaffe, operating hundreds of these planes as transports. After the war, about 30 SM.82s continued to serve in the Italian Air Force, with many continuing to serve until the early 1960s. The Savoia Marchetti SM.82 flew extensively with the Regia Aeronautica and later the Luftwaffe to transport goods. A simple handling device simplified the loading and unloading process, and its seats folded to provide space for 40 people along with equipment. Although it was capable of operating as a bomber and carrying a bomb load of up to 8,818 pounds, it did not serve in this way frequently. Dear friends, we've explored the first 5 bomber aircraft. Now it's time to decide which one impressed you the most. Comment your choice right below. The next 5 aircraft are even more astonishing. Are you curious about Hitler's monster? Like the video if you're ready. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the rest. Now let's explore the final 5 destructive machines. 5. Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress. The Savoia Marchetti SM.82 Marsupial, Italy's famous transport aircraft, officially debuted in 1939 and served in the Italian Air Force from 1940 until the early 1960s. With its ability to carry damaged fighter planes, the SM.82 Marsupial earned the nickname Kangaroo, demonstrating its versatility and multi-purpose nature. Savoia Marchetti, Italy's prestigious aircraft manufacturer, produced 875 SM.82s, which participated in numerous important campaigns in Africa throughout World War II. The SM.82 was a 3-engine monoplane, featuring a retractable middle wing and easily adjustable landing gear. This aircraft was also equipped with a tail wheel, providing stability during landing. Although capable of operating as a bomber with a bomb load of up to 8,818 pounds, the SM.82 was typically used sparingly in this role. The Luftwaffe, Germany's Air Force, utilized the SM.82 in the largest numbers, operating them as transport aircraft and putting hundreds of these planes into service. After the war, about 30 SM.82s continued to serve in the Italian Air Force, with some remaining operational until the early 1960s. The SM.82 flew numerous cargo missions with both the Regia Aeronautica and the Luftwaffe. Its practical design allowed for simplified loading and unloading processes, and the seats could be folded to accommodate up to 40 passengers along with cargo. Despite its capability as a bomber and ability to carry heavy bombs, the SM.82 Marsupial's primary role remained that of a versatile and reliable transport aircraft. 4. Avro Type 694 Lincoln. The Avro Type 694 Lincoln was a British 4-engine heavy bomber, which first flew on June 9, 1944. Developed from the Avro Lancaster, the initial Lincoln variants were originally called Lancaster 4 and V. They were later renamed Lincoln 1 and 2. This was the second-to-last piston-engine bomber operated by the Royal Air Force. The Lincoln achieved operational status in August 1945. Production of this aircraft type proceeded, and it was introduced in large numbers, supplementing and gradually replacing the Lancaster in RAF service by the late 1940s. With a crew of 7, a length of 78 feet 3.5 in, a wingspan of up to 120 feet, and a height of 17 feet 3.5 in, the Lincoln had a large wing area of 1,421 square feet. With an empty weight of 43,400 pounds and a loaded weight of 75,000 pounds, the Lincoln could achieve a maximum takeoff weight of up to 82,000 pounds. The aircraft's power plant consisted of 4 powerful Rolls-Royce Merlin 85 engines, each producing 1,750 horsepower. In terms of flight performance, the Lincoln had an impressive maximum speed of up to 319 miles per hour at an altitude of 18,800 feet, and a cruising speed of 215 miles per hour at 20,000 feet. Its range was also impressive, reaching up to 2,930 miles, and it could achieve a service ceiling of 30,500 feet. The powerful engines gave the Lincoln a notable rate of climb of 800 feet per minute. The Lincoln was well armed with 2.50 in M2 Browning machine guns in the nose and tail, as well as 2 additional .50 in machine guns or 2 20mm Hispano cannons on the dorsal position. The Lincoln's bomb carrying capacity was also impressive, with the ability to carry up to 14,000 pounds of conventional bombs and capable of carrying a DP bomb weighing up to 22,000 pounds. With these superior characteristics, the Avro Type 694 Lincoln made a significant contribution to military aviation history and became a proud symbol of the aviation industry. In Royal Air Force service, the Lincoln was replaced by a new generation of jet-powered bombers. In 1967, the last Lincoln bombers in Argentine service were retired. 3. Consolidated B32 Dominator. The Consolidated B32 Dominator was a heavy bomber manufactured for the United States Army Air Forces during World War II, and was the last Allied aircraft to participate in operations during this war. It was developed in parallel with the Boeing B-29 Superfortress as a backup design in case the Superfortress proved unsuccessful. It only reached units in the Pacific Theater in the summer of 1945, and subsequently only had limited combat operations against Japanese targets before the war ended. Most existing orders for the B-32 were cancelled shortly after, and only 118 B-32s were manufactured. The engines used were 4 Wright R-3350s with 2,200 horsepower each, similar to the B-29. The aircraft would have pressurized compartments, retractable remote-controlled gun turrets with 14 12.7mm machine guns. It weighed approximately 45,814 kilograms. The contract to build the first 2 XB-32 prototypes was signed on September 6, 1940, the same day as the contract for the Boeing XB-29 prototype. The first XB-32 was equipped with 8 0.50-inch M2 Browning machine guns on ventral and dorsal turrets, and a combination of 2 12.7mm machine guns and 1 20mm cannon on each outer engine nacelle facing rearward, plus 2 12.7mm machine guns on the wings outside the engines. During test flights, the prototype encountered persistent issues with engine oil leaks and poor heat dissipation. On March 17, 1943, a contract for the production of the first 300 B-32 CF aircraft was signed, but development problems continued. On May 10, 1943, the first XB-32 crashed during takeoff after a total of 30 flights, before the second XB-32 prototype, numbered 41 to 142, finally took off on July 2. 2. Short Stirling. The Short Stirling was a 4-engine heavy bomber used by Britain during World War II. It was notable for being the first 4-engine bomber to enter service with the Royal Air Force. The maximum bomb load was 14,000 pounds, which could be carried within a range of 2,000 miles, or a smaller load of 8,000 pounds to 3,000 miles. The aircraft required a crew of 6 and had a typical total weight of 48,000 pounds, while a maximum overload weight of 65,000 pounds was also envisioned. The aircraft had to be capable of flying at a speed of 230 miles per hour or higher, while flying at an altitude of 15,000 feet, carrying 3 gun turrets for defense. The aircraft could also be used as a troop transport for 24 soldiers and could use a catapult for takeoff when heavily loaded. In early 1941, the Stirling entered operational service with squadrons. The Stirling had a relatively short operational career as a bomber before being relegated to secondary duties from late 1943. Air Ministry decisions on certain performance requirements played a role in limiting the Stirling's performance. The 100-foot limit also affected early Halifax models, although the Lancaster never complied with it. During its later service, the Stirling was used to mine German ports. New and converted aircraft also flew as glider tugs and supply aircraft during the Allied invasion of Europe in 1944 to 1945. After World War II, this aircraft type was quickly phased out of Royal Air Force service, having been replaced in the transport role by the Avro York, a derivative of the Lancaster, which had previously replaced it in the bombing role. Some old military Stirlings were rebuilt for the civilian market. 1. Boeing B-29 Superfortress. The Boeing B-29 Superfortress was a heavy bomber, four-propeller engine aircraft of the United States Army Air Forces, used primarily in World War II. After the war, the military of several U.S.-friendly countries was also equipped with this aircraft. The name Superfortress E was derived from its famous predecessor, the B-17 Flying Fortress. The B-29 was one of the largest aircraft to participate in World War II. The aircraft was designed with a length of 30.2 m, wingspan of 43.1 m, and height of 8.5 m. It was the most modern bomber of its time with a pressurized cockpit, centralized fire control system, and remote-controlled gun turrets. The B-29 could carry up to 9,000 kilograms of bombs, and could be modified to carry two 10,000 kilograms T-14 earthquake bombs under the wings. It was equipped with 12 Browning M2 12.7 mm machine guns in remote-controlled turrets. It was designed with one M2 20 mm cannon mounted in the tail, which was removed shortly after entering service. Until its retirement in the 1960s, about 3,900 B-29 aircraft were produced. The airframe was later developed into the U.S. Air Force's B-50 Superfortress, and the Soviet Union also developed a copy, the Tupolev Tu-4, reverse-engineered from captured B-29s. The B-29 could fly up to 40,000 feet at a true airspeed of up to 350 miles per hour. The B-29's flight procedures provided charts to calculate takeoff and landing speeds based on weight, altitude, and temperature. Finding optimal engine parameters for cruising required referencing altitude, outside temperature, aircraft weight, and true airspeed. Engine parameters had to be recalculated every 2 hours or whenever altitude changed. This type of calculation became common in civil and military aviation today, but was a breakthrough innovation in 1944. The benefits it brought to increasing range and flight performance were undeniable. So we've reviewed 10 giant bombers of World War II. These machines were not just weapons, but also evidence of technological progress during wartime. The question I want to ask you, if you had to choose one for display in a museum, which aircraft would you pick? Share your opinion in the comments. In the next video, we'll explore the top 10 most mysterious submarines in history. Don't miss it. Press subscribe and turn on the notification bell to get updates on the latest videos. Thank you for watching. See you next time.